All right, so we're live, and I'm Rodney Owens. For those of you who do not know, and I want to make it a point to go live maybe once a week on Thursdays, 10 a.m. for this set or this series of what I want to do. And I just kind of want to talk about different topics, but probably I'll stick to real estate for the 10 a.m. Thursday, Pacific Standard Time live, and then as football season comes in, I'll do my Now You Know of Rodney O with the fantasy football and at noon, which will be noon Pacific time. So right now, I just want to talk about the topic home ownership versus renting. And if you want to just take a look around at certain homes or have questions about your home value, you can go to Trinity Cal, that's trinitycal.com. It's the website. You can do a search there. You can put in your home address and find out the value of your home. If you're in one of the areas that I serve, I can sell in California, all of California. So if you have a question and I'm not particular in that area, just go ahead and give me a message through my website and I can hook you up with a great realtor in your area if I can't help you. So one stop to do everything for your real estate needs. And so home ownership versus renting. And that's kind of like the whole question that people have. And so on this is just my opinion. This is just what I think and what I feel just being in real estate. And I've had a license for 20 years now. 20 years goes by fast, but 20 years now. And so when you talk about this and you talk about home ownership, some will say that it's not an asset. Like your home is not an asset. It takes money, it drains money from you, unless maybe it's paid off or until you sell it. It's not necessarily an asset. And so my whole point of this, and Robert Kiyosaki is a famous one for saying that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad author. But I say this, what does it matter? What does it matter if it's an asset or not, the place you live? Because everybody has to live somewhere. And so unless you are that person who is in your parents' house, or you don't have to pay rent somewhere, you're living somewhere for free on somebody's couch in the basement, not saying anything's wrong. Things happen. There's times in my life when I had to go back for parents for a little bit. But I'm saying, unless that is, you have to spend money to live somewhere, right? You're giving out cash to somebody. And so when you look at the pros and cons of renting, when you're renting, there's no maintenance, right? If you have a good landlord, the maintenance should be done for you. If you have a bad one, then I can understand that there may be some challenges and it may be hard. But anyway, for the most part, there's no maintenance costs, no property taxes. If you want to move, give a notice, you're out of there. You don't have to worry about selling it. There's no huge down payment, even though you got a security deposit. And I think with home buyer programs, and not only first-time buyer programs, there's a lot of first-time buyer programs out there that can help first-time buyers get in with little cash, but also for home buyers, there's incentives that you can get to move in. But no huge down payment, but you have a security deposit. Anyway, so those are kind of the pros of renting. Now, kind of the cons of renting is you're paying down somebody else's mortgage. You're building somebody else's wealth. So somebody else owns the property. Now, maybe if you haven't lived in an apartment, it's a little different. But basically, at home, you're paying down somebody's equity. You're paying their home off, and you're building their equity. The money's just gone. You're just spending money every month, and there's nothing to show for it except for you had a place to stay. You had a place to hold your stuff. You had a place to live. The home, especially renting a house, this is very common. The homeowner may want to sell, and then you're looking to move again. And if rental prices are high, then you're kind of in a bind because you're looking for a place to move. California especially, people complain about how much rent costs out there. And then unable to make changes to the property without approval. If you want to do something, you got to ask for approval. Maybe even painting. You got to paint and ask somebody, hey, can I have some approval to do this change, to do that change? Because it's not necessarily your own home. You're staying there, but it's not your own home. And then you have no control over rent fluctuations. They can increase the rent goes up, got to pay it or move, right? And you're kind of stuck with that. Now, when you buy, okay, some of the pros of buying is if you own it, you can do whatever you want to, within limits, of course. There's CC&Rs, conditions, covenants, and restrictions, and of course you can't go crazy. Usually in a suburb, residential neighborhood, you can't go out and have goats and sheep in your backyard. Understandable, right? But for the most part, you can do what you want to do with your property. If you want to paint something, you can paint it. If you live in an HOA, homeowners association, they may have some restrictions on what you can paint on the exterior, what you can do on the exterior. But again, you own that. You can pretty much do a lot of it what you want. Okay, you build equity, so you're accumulating wealth because you're paying your monthly mortgage. Your house balance is going down. Home values will probably rise. You know, historically they have risen, even though we have some crashes, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But you're building wealth, and so you're building this money from your house that you can, you know, hopefully don't touch unless you really need it. If you need it, you can take some away, use it for whatever it may be, use it for a smart reason. I'll talk about 2008 in a minute, when people were doing a lot of bad things with it, going on vacations and doing things, you know, going on vacation and paying for it for the next 30 years is not very smart. Okay, but you also have control. You know, when you buy a house, you have control over what you want to do with that house, how you want it. If you want to put a lien against it, like I said, and borrow money, you can, right? So you have options. Now, some of the bad, and here's the big one. If the market crashes and drops value, right? That all of a sudden this house you bought for $500,000 is now only worth $300,000, and you're sitting there freaking out saying, I lost $200,000. What am I going to do? I owe, you know, $450, and I can only sell it for $300. I'm stuck, right? Very common thing that people fear with that and with buying that. But I can say this. Well, let's go over some more of the cons. Property taxes and insurance. You have to pay those. It could be costly. You have large repairs that need to be made, it's costly. If something major goes wrong, it's going to cost you some money. You know, when I was renting and I had like a water heater go out in the middle of the night, considered an emergency, called the landlord up, called the property management. They were out there early in the morning, replaced it, it was done, right? You own it. You got to go and buy one or call somebody and have them come out and pay the money to do that. So it can be costly if there's big things, right? And so those are some of the cons of buying, right? But let's look at the big picture, okay? So I talk about the crash. And in 2008, there were a lot of things going on. I can do a video about 2008. 2008, a lot of things were going on. Everybody in the industry has a little bit of blame, but mostly bankers, I'm sorry, mortgage brokers and bankers, mostly them, because they were doing things like allowing 110% of your value you can take out of your house. So you're already starting off borrowing more than a house is worth, right? And when the market crashes, you're wondering how you get stuck with that, right? Nowadays, you know, about 70% loan to value, 80% loan to value. I mean, there's some 90, but again, you're leaving some equity, some room in there for fluctuation now. They were doing loans where you weren't making a full payment every month. So you move into something you can't really afford, and then what they would do is it would negatively amortize, and then down the road, maybe 2 years down the road, your payment jumps. Your payment goes from $2,000 to $4,000, and your balance is higher. So a lot of those things they were doing back then that would leave a bad taste in your mouth if you're trying to get out of the house and you can't, right? So with the fluctuations, yeah, that can happen. But the point is, and the big picture is this: when you own and you're paying your monthly mortgage, the balance is eventually going towards zero. It may take 30 years. You can do it in 15 if you want to. There's ways to do that. But you're working towards your balance going down, right? So regardless of what your house is worth, right, it's going to always be worth something, especially with the principle of the land never depreciates. And so if your house is total garbage and it's horrible, it's a fixer, the land is still worth something. So there's that principle that's working for you. That's worst case scenario I'm talking about. But basically your house payment, your house values, your house balance is going down, right? But your house is worth something. So you still have something to show for all the money you're shelling out every month, right? Because if you rent, right, you pay, and there's nothing to show for it. You're just paying for a place to stay, right? Buying does require more financial discipline, because repairs and taxes, you got to save and hope that you have money for when something breaks down. You don't want to buy something more than you can afford. You don't want to get stuck and borrow all this money and have all your equity gone, so that when you do need to sell or something, you can't, or you can't pull money back out. So there's a lot of different things that you need to understand, and it requires more discipline as a buyer. Do it. But like I said, if value drops, right, you can always leave and rent it out. There's options. You can leave the house and say, I want to turn the house into a rental. Now, I understand that a lot of people don't want to be landlords. A lot of people aren't into property management. And, you know, apartments are probably, units are more attractive to own. See Grant Cardone. Units are more attractive to own than single residences, but it is an option. It is an option to leave and say, let's find some good tenants and rent it out, and at least we will keep the value in that, and somebody else is going to be paying our mortgage. So there's always that, right? Short sale, there's always that option. Short sale basically is the bank's going to let you sell for what it's worth, even if you owe more. It's not really, attractive to a lot of people, but it is a way out. I've seen people do short sales and buy a house at the same time. So, it's better than foreclosure and bankruptcy. Let me put it that way. So there is ways out of this if you need to do it. But again, I remember back, my parents' first house was about $32,000, and then they sold it maybe 10 years later for 80 something thousand. And then the house they bought then was 150, and it's probably worth about 500 now. So as you see, there is wealth there that you're just building, that you can take the equity and move somewhere else, pay cash for a smaller house if you downgrade. A lot of different options. Okay, let's talk about the money comparison. Suppose you live in a place, $2,000 rent for a house, right? That's $24,000 a year. No tax benefits. You can't deduct anything. And with the tax things going on, who knows how much you can in the future and what's going to happen. Anyway, $24,000 a year, no tax benefit or anything else. Suppose you get a house, right? Suppose the house payment's a little bit more. Usually rent, believe it or not, sometimes and a lot of times costs more than a house payment. But suppose you have a $2,200 house payment, okay? That's $26,400 a year. So that's $2,400 more you would spend in renting, but you get a tax benefit, a tax write-off, and your mortgage balance goes down because you own something now and you're building that equity and building that wealth, right? So let's take the worst case scenario when you buy, okay? Suppose you buy at the top of the market, right? Things are booming and you just have to, you need to buy something, you buy at top of the market kind of drops a little bit, there's a recession that hits, you lose value, okay? But that value will eventually return. It may take a long time, but it will return, right? In the meantime, while you're waiting for that value to return, your balance is still going down towards zero, right? You still have a place to live, and you still get equity when it returns to a higher value than what you owe, which will happen eventually, right? When you rent again, you just pay. And if you have to, like I said, if you have to get out and you have to move, get the place, rent it out to somebody, lease it out to somebody, or just do a short sale, all right? So some obstacles that can happen to trying to buy a home: credit, okay? It's tough to beat credit, just fix it, okay? There are subprime loans out there where you have a higher interest rate. You can try to get into that, fix your credit, and then refinance later. There's options, but credit, just kind of fix it, work on it. Income, work with your income. If you need to earn more income, work towards earning more income. If you need to move to a different area, move to a different area, especially in California, the Bay Area, San Jose and San Francisco. San Jose, $1 million for a regular house, for a house like I own, right? $1 million, probably more, if this house that I own now is in San Jose, okay? Move to a neighboring area, commute. I mean, I know it's maybe not be, the best thing, but you're going to build equity in something and build wealth for down the road. So anyway, down payment also, but there's many programs out there that can help you with down payment where you can get into something and it's not necessarily going to take a lot of your checkbook. But anyway, those are just kind of the pros and cons of buying and renting. It's situational based. Go ahead, and I would love to hear your thoughts of what I said. Leave comments, subscribe to me. I want to do this weekly. Give me other topics to discuss, and we can see what other things we can discuss Thursdays at 10 a.m. Visit my website, www.trinitycal.com. That's Trinity, C-A-L, as in California.com. And I will see you guys in the next one.